Hello, students. This is your life science teacher, Mr. Pierce, reporting to you from room 205. This video is part 2 of our introduction to the microscope. Previously, in part 1, you learned the different parts of the microscope. Here in part 2, we are going to learn care for the microscope. First off, when using the microscope, you must always be careful. These are tools that we have had since the second year Mill Creek has been in existence. And so they are pushing close to 15 years old. This video was made in 2021, just for your information. In my 10 years experience, I have not had to replace a microscope yet because students have cared for them other than the normal wear and tear. But anyway, this is just a warning. Do not be that first student to break a microscope. So when first using the microscope, you may notice that they have this plastic wrap on top of them called a dust cover. It is very simple. You remove the dust cover just by pulling it over the top. The dust cover does exactly what it says. It keeps dust off from your microscope. Whenever you are not using your microscope, please keep it covered to keep it from getting dusty. When carrying the microscope, transporting it from such the prep room, or perhaps you need a different location in the room. Whenever you carry the microscope, you always carry it with two hands, and as you carry it by the arm and the base. That way, when walking with it, if you get bumped, you can keep it in place. Also, it is very capable to carry the microscope with the dust cover on, still holding it by the arm and the base. If you ever need to clean the microscope, and you will, we always use what is called lens paper. Now, in our class, we will use mostly the booklet of lens paper, and it's simple to use. Whenever you use lens paper, if you need a brand new sheet, it is simple. You just tear it out of the booklet. Now, lens paper, it's not always a one-time use thing. So you can use this more than once, or even if you use it, another group can use the same piece of paper. Using the lens paper is a good way to clean your lenses. Okay? Lens paper also works well when it's wet. But if you use a wet piece of lens paper, follow up by using a dry piece to make sure that there are no smudges left on. You will sometimes hear me use the term Chem wipes. Chem wipes are just a brand of lens paper that I sometimes say just by accident, but it's still the same thing. Chem wipes, the ones that we have in class, are actually much larger. We don't always need to use them, but they are very large. So only use the lens paper approved for cleaning the microscope. Do not use paper towels. Do not use Kleenexes. Those will actually scratch our lenses. When using the microscope to focus, you may notice that the knobs will sometimes stop turning. If the knobs have stopped turning, do not continue to turn them. That doesn't only go for the large, coarse focus knobs, but also these small, fine focus knobs. If the knob stops turning, do not try to force it. Inside of connected to the knobs, and you may notice that as I am turning it, the stage is raising. There is a series of gears that allow the stage to move up and down. And if you try and force the knobs once they stop, you will strip out the gears. Also, finally, whenever using the microscopes, please keep your area clear. We do sometimes, or we will have labs nearby, but you do not need your binder and your MacBook and other useless tools for when you are using the microscope. There was something else I was going to say, I forgot. Moving on. To power on the microscope, when you plug it in, you need to be sure that you unwind the cord for its entirety, because if you leave it wrapped around the base, there's a chance that you could impede your stage from moving up and down. When you plug it into the wall, our outlets here in our classroom have a safety button. If the safety button ever pops out, you simply push the safety button back in, and therefore the electricity will begin to work again. When using the microscope, you always, to find the total magnification, you take the eyepiece, which our microscopes in our class have a magnification of 10x, or 10 times. And you simply multiply it by the objective lens which you are using. Excuse me. The shortest one has a magnification of 4x, or 4 times. The middle one has a magnification of 10x, or 10 times. That's the middle. And the large magnification has a magnification of 40x, or 40 times. To find the total magnification, you simply take the eyepiece and you multiply it by the objective lens which you are using. So, for example, if we are on the lowest objective lens, which has a magnification of 4x, you always use the eyepiece, which has a magnification of 10x. To find the total magnification, you simply multiply the eyepiece 10 by 4 to give us a total magnification of 40x, or 40 times what the eye can see. Beyond the compound light microscope, which is the tool we use in our class, it is called the compound light microscope. We will not be using, because we do not have the privilege of it, but there are tools known as the scanning electron microscope. The scanning electron microscope are more powerful than the compound light microscope which we have. If you notice the images down below, in the middle, that is a picture of yeast, the fungi, the single-celled fungi. And that image was taken using a microscope like the ones that we have. The image on the right is still yeast, but it was taken using a scanning electron microscope, which scanning electron microscopes have, like I said, much more power. And as you can see, there is much more detail in those cells than there are in the middle image. Here's an image or a picture of a scanning electron microscope. I just wanted to give you reference. I have personally never used a scanning electron microscope. They typically run in the range between $80,000, and I've even seen some of the higher priced ones up to $2 million. So it's just a little out of our budget here at Mill Creek. Here's another image showing you this is actually pollen grains taken with a scanning electron microscope. And actually how the scanning electron microscope works is up here at the top, it actually sends electrons down, and it sends it through a series of magnets and whatnot that focuses it on your specimen in the bottom. And all those electrons that are hitting off from what you're looking at bounce off, and the microscope kind of catches those electrons to give us a more detailed image, which then can be seen on a computer. But again, unfortunately, we don't have the tool here at Mill Creek. We will settle for our fine about $500 microscopes, but still fun for you to look at. This is just kind of giving you an idea of what you can see with different magnification. So the human eye can see things that are very large, but it can see things to about 100 micrometers. That's what looks like the little U with the tail. That is a micrometer. So the human eye, or as we will sometimes say, the naked eye, can see things like other humans, apples, wasps, ants, and the human hair. That's about the smallest thing. An individual hair is about the thinnest thing that we can see with the naked eye. Using a compound light microscope, which is what we have in class, we can see things as small as, insects, hairs, but we can also see individual cells of eukaryotic cells as well as prokaryotic cells. But light microscopes can't get quite as small as viruses. Viruses are too small to be used with these tools that we have. Electron microscopes, like I said, are much more powerful than the light microscopes which we have. Scanning electron microscopes can see things. They can see individual cells, but they can see things including viruses and molecules such as DNA, or even some of your smaller molecules. Scanning electron microscopes can actually pick up images of, but they're not quite able to magnify an individual atom. Those are things that are smaller than 1 nanometer. This has been Mr. Pierce with a tutorial for your microscopes. This has been part 2 of your video series. That is all I have to say. Goodbye.